Hello, welcome in to a new, fresh episode of Qi Time. And I am here with my dear friend and Queen of Astrology, Pam Gregory, is with us. And I would just like to mention that Pam has actually been a supporter of Qi Time since the beginning, and she was introduced to me by our mutual friend Richard Ellis. So hello Richard, thank you so much for this. And it was very early on when Qi Time was part of Express FM, when I was still learning. I was like a fledgling broadcaster, and I remember when Richard interviewed you, and I was just completely blown away with the information coming through you then. And I found out that you live not far away from me. And it was like, oh, Pam, I'd love it if you would be a regular visitor to Qi Time. And bless you, you have been over the years. And do you know what, Pam? That was 10 years ago.
Where did that go?
It's just incredible, isn't it? I just watch you grow and soar, and more people realize the wisdom coming through your approach to astrology and how you make it very real and practical for us, which is such a relief. But also that you have a beautiful philosophy that has grown as well around how we can manage ourselves through these times of great change. And do you feel like you were called to the planet to be here and now?
Oh, no doubt. I must look at the small print in more detail. Absolutely no doubt. I really feel like I'm in service, and this is not the first time I've done this. That's what I feel really
Right.
deeply. Yeah, and that sense is growing by the day as the times we're living in become bigger by the day. And 2022 is going to be a very, very big, eventful, dramatic year.
Well, quite. And that is why you're here on Qi Time to chat with us about the Qi of the astrology in 2022. So I have just been on your YouTube channel called Pam Gregory, which has got all your updates on it. But particularly there's a forecast for 2022 and everything that's going on planetarily and the different quality, the different energy that this year has, very different to last year. Could you explain a little bit about that briefly for us?
Yes, thanks, Clara. And it is a joy to be with you. You know, we've been around the track a couple of times, so it's joy still to be here with you. I can't believe it's a decade. That's
I
just
know.
wild. I don't know where that time went, but yeah, I mean, particularly if I can start in January 2020, when we had that very big Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. That actually hadn't happened since 1517. And that was the time of Martin Luther, when he was nailing his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Church, because the whole theme really was about the abuse of power. Because he felt that the church at that time had excessive power. It was selling indulgences to very poor people who were, very fearful of the power and authority of the church. So really, his actions led to the Protestant Reformation. So we hadn't had that conjunction in Capricorn since 1517. So it was a big deal. But the theme was likely to be around the abuse of power. We'd had a similar aspect of Saturn and Pluto in the early 1930s. 1933 to 35, when there were extreme leaders like Hitler coming to power. And so we knew that it was going to be hard times. It was going to be very much about power being excessive at the higher level. It was very much going to be top-down power, rules and regulations, constraint, discipline, constriction. We knew that, but we didn't know the particular event. So, the rest is history. So all through 2020, and to a large extent through 2021 as well, there has been a lot of constraint, constriction, rules for your safety, etc., through those 2 years. But now the energy is shifting, because all last year we had a square between Saturn and Uranus. And just in short, to top line this is like the old and the new, the past and the future. Saturn is the past, Uranus is the future. Therefore, Uranus will always win, because that's where we're headed. But and it's the further out planet. But also it's about Saturn control, top-down control, traditional structures like government, and Uranus is freedom, the maverick. No, I'm not going to obey the rules. I'm going to do my own thing. I follow my own sovereignty. And this is very much linked to the galactic, to higher mind. It's a very erratic energy. It comes in bursts. If you think of quantum physics, it's all about quanta, packages of energy, bolts of lightning, that kind of thing. It's not steady or linear. So it's a very disruptive, eruptive energy. Hence, it's linked to earthquakes, volcanoes. It's interesting and very sad that at this, just yesterday on the 17th, we had the full moon in Cancer ruled by the moon, and that's very linked to the tides, obviously. And but also Uranus was stationary direct yesterday and today, which amplifies this energy of Uranus being the planet of volcanoes. And so what happened in Tongva, we had that massive underwater volcano, which absolutely, so close to the day, and it started massive tsunamis and tsunami warnings as far as California, Japan, Eastern Australia, etc. So Uranus is a very powerful energy, and Uranus is coming to the fore much more in 2022 than it was in 2021. It was suppressed then. So we're going to see a lot more Uranian energy, and also Mars is in the picture more strongly. Both of these planets are speedy. They want things to go quickly. So we are going to have a fast-moving, eventful, turbulent, erratic, disruptive geomagnetics of the Earth. They're accelerating too, because Uranus is connected to the coronal mass ejection, solar flares, all of the geomagnetics of the Earth. So there's a lot.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. It's like, Pam, there is so much that we need to be handling this year with these shifts into what is true. So if we're coming into Uranus being the planet of awakening, this really is more and more people awakening. And you've heard it before, this is happening, you can feel it. But there's a discombobulation with that. There's a fear of like, I don't know where I am. How do I manage myself? So obviously there are ways, here on Qi Time, we're talking about the energy behind everything, how we manage times of great disarray ourselves, and how when we look at the stability that the earth gives us, but also the information, the wisdom of the stars, how we can do this in a calm way, even though all around us is kind of mayhem. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to feed into that, Clara, spot on. It's also the planet that is linked to truth. It's linked to shocks and surprises. It's linked to revolutions, as I say. So I call this year the year of revelations and revolutions, because the revelations of truth coming out can lead to revolutions. It can also lead in some cases to mental illness, because it's an unstable mental energy. It's very high vibe, but not stable. And so the shock of things coming out this year may destabilize people. So I think the most important things for us to do are, firstly, connect to the earth, bare feet on the ground as often as you can, literally, bare skin touching the earth as often as
And you can't actually get enough of that, can you, Pam?
No.
And I think we all need to remind each other as well, even when it's cold, like it is at the moment in the UK, because it's January in the UK is when we're recording this, still getting outside and knowing that the earth's beneath you. And actually, I don't take off my shoes and socks, and maybe I should, Do you do that when it's cold? Do you put your feet on the cold earth?
My hands on the earth.
Yes, of course.
Anything you can do, put your hands on the earth, be in nature. Nature never lies. Nature is always there. Nature is so wise. Nature is so grounding. So that's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
The second thing is try and find a community of like-minded people. Community is going to be massive this year, because Uranus is the planet of community and collaboration.
Oh, okay.
And all over the world, if you can find a group of like-minded people, be it online or better in person, that will give you so much strength and support. It's easier to be stronger if there are lots of you being stronger.
It absolutely is. And I think this is what's come around with all the stand in the parks that have come up from the lockdowns, when people are just like, I need to be in community. I need to know who's around me that thinks similarly. And what piece of information have you got? And what have you got? And there are pockets of this all over the country so the communities are being built because it's time, and we're hearing the call and we need it. Our hearts need this connection, don't we?
In the world, it's international. It was begun by a man in Australia. So we've got these little hubs of light that are forming a grid of light all over the earth. And this is the beginning of New Earth, because New Earth is grassroots up, ordinary, common people like you and me, you know, grassroots up, no longer top down.
No.
So, you know, that is really the embryonic, very early beginning. We're going to see a lot more green shoots next year. But nevertheless, this is already happening because Uranus is so prominent and it rules Aquarius. And we're getting more and more Aquarian energy, really, because Pluto moves into Aquarius in March 23. We'll stay there till 2044. 2044, long time. So the other thing I'd say with regard to exactly what you've been talking about, Clara, with it can destabilize mentally, is be in peace. Drop into stillness, drop into silence, drop into no thought, and have a default way of doing that, whether it's, you know, breath work, candle gaze, you know, whatever it
Qigong.
is, Qigong, yoga, you know, whatever your system.
Any of the mindfulness practices have now been scientifically proven to drop your stress levels, drop anxiety, fear, and optimize your immune system and all your other systems. I'm going to say it's like flicking a switch, but it's not quite, because when you're in a state of anxiety and tension and fear and worry, I don't think you can suddenly flick a switch, which is why it's good to have these, what I refer to as bridging techniques, like either walking in nature, dance, music, drumming, something that you know you need to get out of this mind funk. And you need also to be lured into. I use a lot of sound healing now, you know, in that I know that creates a frequency my brain rhythms can relate to, that can help lure me into my Qigong state. And then, of course, the mindful movement comes in, and you are able to release the tension that can get built up from fear and anxiety and worry, because the body doesn't want to hold on to it. And I think, like someone like yourself and I, we've got this default setting because we've worked on it. We've been practicing this for many, many years. I'm so grateful, Pam, that I have this practice. I don't know what I'd be like without it. I really don't.
But even when you struck your bowl at the very beginning, before we started, I could feel both of us just go whoomph out of the head, whoomph into our center.
Should we do this? Should we do it for the listeners then? Okay, this is the heart bowl from my dear friend Sandy Humby. This is your heart bowl, my lovely. Well, it's not, it's mine now. Okay, for the love of the world. This is what connects us. These are the frequencies of connection. This is the truth of who we are, our heart frequency, as Pam will no doubt be telling us more about here. I know that you're a great connector with the Heart Math Institute. I think you were one of the first people that told me about this, about all the science behind the heart resonance, and how when we tune into that truth, we all get it, because guess what? It's the truth.
Absolutely. And that's where we're headed, living from the heart. We're getting out of the head, we're living from the heart. But that bowl, striking the bowl, takes me straight back to the Himalayas, to Tibet. And I know I've had a past life there. I feel it in my core, but it's just warmth back to that state of bliss. So it's something as simple as that, just striking a bowl, that can do it for us. So it's getting out of the head. It's interesting that the North Node today, in fact, is just moving out of Gemini into Taurus for 18 months till July 23. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so we've been very buzzy in the head with information. It's now today moving into Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So Venus is love. Venus is the heart. And that's where we're going to be for another 18 months. So we've really got to think about living from the heart. The mind is so often our enemy. And particularly with this Uranus energy, which is the higher octave of Mercury, it's so high vibe. which can be fabulous in terms of downloads, insights from the superconscious, from the galactics, but it can also be destabilizing because it's so buzzy, it's so high vibe.
Right. Well, couple of points there. Pam Gregory is here with us on Qi Time. Such a joy. Look, talking about the Qi of astrology and the philosophy that's coming through these astrological wisdoms that you're so deft at producing for us. So, yeah, I see what you mean about the mind. We can feel like the mind's the enemy, but how often do we let the mind just distract us? Just like, oh, let the mind take the lead. I'll just let myself be distracted. And I know both you and I are really clear on not having notifications on and all of that, just choosing not to be distracted. But I say, get the mind in the now moment, which is another great way with Qigong. It harnesses the mind to be curious about the now moment of how are my feet placed on the earth? How is my body feeling? And can I bring the mind in to harness the activity of the heart? So the heart is the intuitive way forward. It's the guide for us all. And the mind can help put into action from the direction of the heart. And the other piece is that, yes, we can feel very destabilized. We can be into all this spiritual work, and we can get quite off planet with it because it's fantastically amazing what's happening. And so this grounding piece, as you said earlier, about having feet or hands on the earth, but also the Qigong aspect of knowing that your home is in your belly, that this place in our bodies, our dantians, that's where we can feel homed in our bodies, that's connected with our homes on the earth. And then that home in our bodies and our bellies creates the foundation for our hearts to be able to radiate and guide. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to find, because also the nodes moving into Taurus and Scorpio, they are both fixed signs, fixed earth, fixed water. It is about building our strength and resilience and finding our center, finding our anchor within ourselves. Nobody can do that for you. That's an individual practice. Whatever, striking the bowl, breath work, yoga, whatever it is, find your way of doing that. Just sitting on the earth, anything. Because that's going to be so important moving forwards. And the heart, as you well know, Clara sends, the heart field is 50 times stronger than that of the brain. The heart sends much more information to the brain than the brain does to the heart. The brain is secondary. The heart is primary. And particularly moving into these times, we are going to have to live from the heart, because that's where we're headed. We're headed into a love-based community. And, having said that, I can see a very big fork in the road with some people making certain personal choices and heading on one particular trajectory, and others making other personal choices and heading in a very, very different direction, which is heart-based. And I think you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I do. And this choice, this discernment piece is how you make your choices. I mean, how do you make your choices? How do you trust the choices that you're making, and are you willing to look at some of the choices that maybe you made a couple of years ago or something and think, actually, I need to renew that choice and be okay about renewing your choices? And is this in the astrology as well, this importance of the right choice for you?
Yeah, so that's absolutely vital. Discernment is key, because there's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors and misinformation out there. Okay. And I always really come back to, what would love do?
Yes.
What would love do? What is the highest choice? What would love do? What is the most loving thing for yourself? But also, I always think, what is the highest benefit of all in terms of what would love do? And so if we come from that place, then our life starts to be built from the heart outwards, as it were. We're radiating with the heart and meeting lots of other hearts on the same wavelength.
Well, also, Pam, one of the things that you're brilliant at speaking about is about frequency, and about how your frequency counts, not just for the experience of you and your local self, for your spiritual being having an experience, but also the frequency that you emit. And I would love to hear you speak more about the importance of the frequency that you're emitting as well as producing within.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely vital. We're going to become much, much, much more aware of how everything in the universe fundamentally is frequency. Everything is free, everything is vibrating energy. And that's always been the case. We just haven't been very aware of it. We're going to become super aware of that, because what you broadcast as your prevailing frequency, you are going to meet in the world. The universe is simply a mirror. And so if you are moving around your day in love, in joy, in gratitude, in appreciation, you are going to attract more things into your life to be grateful for. They're just going to pop up. If you can find joy in throwing a ball for a dog, playing with a child, watching a sunset, whatever, those things are going to feed back into your life. But not only that, it's not only your individual reality, you're actually affecting the collective, because high frequency energy has a more powerful effect on low frequency than the other way around. It's a principle called downward causation in physics. And so that's really important to know. And that's why you're probably aware, Clara, that it can take a very small percentage of the population, 1 or 2%, to affect the whole, because the higher frequencies are so powerful in affecting the collective.
Oh, that just answers a bit of a question that I've had, because there are so many people that are struggling at the moment, and I know there are, as you do as well. What is that collective frequency producing en masse, and how much of the positive optimal frequencies are being created, and what's the balance? Is it 50-50? And I think you've just answered. I actually know the more positive frequencies are more powerful, they're stronger, they're lighter, they're more connective, they want to make friends, but in those sort of terms, the hearts want to connect with other hearts, they want to be with those similar frequencies. And maybe that's why these communities that are growing up around the world that are based on this on these principles are getting stronger and stronger in the truth of it all, because that's how it is. I'm going, but it does feel like this is the reality. We're being called back to the truth of what matters to us most is the people that we care about, that they are well, that they are happy, that they have a good life, and that we are in this together. So for people that are listening that may be going, oh, it's all right for you, you've clearly got yourself sorted out, and then we've all got our challenges. Come on, everybody's got their challenges, and I know that some have more than others. And it's about choosing to optimize the moment, as you were saying, just the simple things, throwing a ball for a dog. I mean, look, that's amazing. Your body can throw balls. Dogs go chase them. It's nature. And it doesn't have to be rocket science. Those sciences back a lot of this up. With when we choose to see something good in the moment, that raises our frequency. And you might be having a dreadful time with all sorts of problems with, God knows what. But in that moment, if you can notice something good, that just really can affect your whole field, can't it? So
I think that's beautifully said, Clara, beautifully said and very wise. And that's the key thing, because if you think of the great spiritual masters, anyone you want to look at, they had mastered this, that whatever the external circumstances, however difficult, they could still find joy, equilibrium, compassion, gratitude. That's the mastery. So that's what we're being taught. None of us have a perfect life, believe me, not even astrologers, surprisingly enough. We have our challenges too, nobody has a perfect life. But so it's finding the joy in the moment that will attract more joy in, because you're not just doing it for yourself, you're beaming that back out to the world. So this isn't a selfish thing, it's a highly altruistic thing, because you're helping everybody. And I'm kind of super aware, because people send me stuff all day long, I'm sure they do to you. And if I feel, this is bad news and I feel my frequencies start to dip, think, oh, we're not going to go there, because I know that stuff already and I don't want to be taken down. Yeah. I want to stay in a good, because it may take me a little while to climb back out of that if my frequency dips. So I'm super aware, almost like a thought policeman. Sounds a bit draconian, but it's being very conscious of where you're at in your frequency and doing everything you can in simple ways. Stare at a blue sky, look at a bird flying. Simple stuff. Look at the blossom on a tree to find joy in the moment, because that's the beginning of mastery.
Oh, I love it. I think as you were saying that about in nature, you could look at the miracles around, the miracles in nature, the miracle of the rose that's growing, the miracle of the buds on the trees that are coming, the miracle of your existence. And I think that's always helped me, stepping into that the wonder of being, and that I chose to be here at this time. What can I do? What opportunities do I have that I can help with? And I think so. Moving into the astrology of 2022, Pam Gregory is here with us on Qi Time. What are we looking at? We're in January now. You mentioned what happened, on the 18th. And moving forward, what are we looking at having to manage, basically, with this self-mastery, with this, like, right, I'm going to choose to just ride the chi here, but it's going to come at me. What am I looking for? What's going to be coming at us?
So a lot of truth. I think things are going to start to happen any moment now, very quickly. A lot of turbulence, fast moving events. You're going to it's going to be like whitewater rafting. So you have to use your discernment, because there's going to be a lot of truth and a lot of disinformation, quite, deliberate disinformation. So we are going to have to this is going to teach us sharper intuition as we move forwards. So, but what is also wonderful, as well as Uranus being so strong, is that there's another thing which is coming up in February, and really it's from about the second week of February. We have a Mars-Venus conjunction coming together, which is always lovely for romance, if you're interested in that, but also just generally for finding your social life, finding your tribe. That becomes even stronger in March, because it goes into Aquarius, the sign of community and collaboration. And that conjunction stays together until early April. So that will be a very strong time, really from second week of Feb, but particularly from March into early April, of finding your community, finding your tribe.
Right.
And that will see you strong. That will see you in a very good place moving forward. We are going to see a lot of very big challenge to leadership, governments, corporations, institutions, top-down structures who have held external power, because the whole message of Pluto moving through Capricorn is to actually find your inner power. And so we're going to see the collapse of many structures which have been foundational in our lives, and that is going to cause great turbulence. So again, we just have to keep coming back to self. We are the center, we are the anchor, we are the joy, we are the compassion, the gratitude, etc. Live from the heart, because you're gonna see demolition and rubble everywhere quite quickly.
This is going to be a bit scary for a lot of people. So is the reassuring this? So the astrology is showing us that we need to go through this sort of this
I think
this
it's a
year of
breakdown to break through.
yeah. So you've said this before, but it feels like this really is where it's hitting the fan this year.
I think it's very eventful. I think it's much more
Yes.
dramatic and much quicker,
Right.
and turning on a sixpence sort of thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. So just hold your ground, find your strength, find your resilience. We are far more powerful, far stronger, more resilient than we realize. But we do have some beautiful, beautiful things happening. I mean, frankly, the awakening is going to be so exciting. But also this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Jupiter is already in Pisces. They are going to come together on the 12th of April. We're building into that energy already. This only happens once every 166 years. Now, Jupiter and Neptune come together every 13 years, but not in Pisces. So it hasn't happened for 166 years. This is blissful. This is unconditional love. This is connection to source, to the divine. It's about healing. This is going to be a real shift in perception, shift in paradigm. And I talked in the video, I did a specific one on Jupiter, Neptune. I said, if you remember the very first time, particularly if you're swimming in warm waters, that you went snorkeling or diving and you just stuck below the surface. And suddenly, wow, there was this iridescent, bursting life force of colors you'd never seen before, species you'd never seen before. And you think, wow, this was always here, but I didn't see it before. So it's going to be that shift in perception. It's going to be, and for many people, it's going to be, because you're going to feel that your reality is so much more malleable than it's ever been. You're going to be thinking sometimes, have I just had a time slippage, or am I in a dream, or is this my reality, or am I just slipping between them? There's going to be a much greater sense of I am now wave and not part, or less particle. I'm slipping between dimensions. I'm slipping between realities. and you can make that utterly blissful, like a spiritual tsunami. And this is going to be building from now. It's going to be very strong through the Aries equinox, which is this sort of astrological beginning of the new year, if you like. That's when our new year starts as astrologers, and then becomes exact on the 12th of April. And I think that is going to upgrade people at warp speed, at warp speed. That is going to be, it's like if you're a surfer, it's the biggest wave you've ever ridden.
Okay, so we need to prepare for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do it by kind of going with the flow, being more fluid, being resilient, but not resistant to the changes that are coming.
I like that.
So, there are a lot of very different energies coming in here. And that is going to be just glorious until really that conjunction is pretty much together until the 11th of May. And then Jupiter then moves into Aries, which is a very different quality indeed, because we're moving from mutable water into primal fire, into new adventures, new episodes, the warrior energy. I'm stepping into my courage. I'm stepping into my bravery. What can I initiate as a new project in my life? And so that's a very different energy than what we have now running through till the 11th of May.
Right. So I'm feeling here the energy of the astrology. It's a guideline for us to be able to see what is coming down the line, the flavors of what are coming, the support of what is coming, and therefore it's offering us a chance to prepare for this. So if we know that this glorious Jupiter Pisces conjunction is happening in April, to prepare for it and actually bathe and be with that, almost like preparing yourself for the equinox for this next phase, because that is going to give you the information you need that's going to nourish your heart and your soul and your body, so that when you come into this Mars in May, that you will know what you're here to do. You will know what projects are urging to birth through you. Is that the right one of the ways
yes,
of being able to work with it?
Absolutely, because the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces will give a great sense of expansion of possibilities, expansion of everybody's possibilities. It's very likely that all of us will start to feel more psychically sensitive. We'll have stronger healing energy. We'll be much more telepathic. We'll be much more tuned into nature. All of that kind of, we'll be able to have communication with animals in a more sensitive way, even trees for some people, even plants will be tuning in. So it's a spiritual expansion. And once we understand the expanded possibilities, then we can take action as of the 11th of May, moving forwards for another year. Jupiter's in Aries for another year then.
So I got this as you were saying that, as you could see, anybody watching the video gesticulating here, because when Pam speaks, things drop in and you open portals. I know you do. And it was like, so what do we believe? What do we believe with the information coming in? Where do we go for our truth input? And it's this: trust your intuition, trust the energy of the frequencies that cannot lie to you. All this outside manipulation twist that can occur in mainstream can occur from anywhere, any kind of stories coming in. But when it's the actual, what I call the Qi, the language of Qi, doesn't actually need language, words, because there's an energetic response in that telepathy network, in the heart resonance. And when we can trust that in ourselves, I think we're giving ourselves a really big gift, actually. It's like, I can trust my internal barometer.
Yeah, and that's crucial, and that's what we're going to be building and focusing on a lot this year. But coming back to your Qi point, Clara, and great point, because it sparks stuff in me, these conversations. I mentioned in a video a while back that there's so many problems in the world, zillions of problems, and if you look at them on the 3D level, you think, where do I begin? It's going to take 100 years or more to sort out all those problems. If you look at it in the 3D, logically, how do we sort those out? But if you look at it from an energetic level, there's just one thing, and that's the level of frequency. And all the bad stuff is low frequency energy, and the good stuff is high frequency. So if more of us can get on that high frequency bandwidth simply by being compassionate, joyful, grateful for a child, a dog, a tree, the sunshine, simple, 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 all for free, then we can start to dissolve more quickly the lower frequency energy, and all of those problems just drift away. They just crumble. And that isn't to say that we shouldn't stand in our power and stand for what's right and stand in our sovereignty, but ultimately the problems in the world are all manifestations of low frequency energy. So it's all one thing. It's Qi, it's energy that we have to work with.
It is, which helps to simplify the questions and helps to simplify the choices. Does this resonate with me or not? It's almost rather than I've got to go and search for this and this to help me make up my mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, research is important, of course it is, but it's the feeling that lands in you when you get that research. Is this still actually resonating with me, or do I have more questions, or do I just trust something deeper that knows that I can feel there's a resonance, there's a frequency, as you say, that's chiming with the truth?
Yep, totally. And spot on. And this is going to become finer and stronger for many of us, whether it's a gut feel, whether you do it by dowsing, kinesiology, whatever your method of meditation, obviously of tapping into your intuition, that is going to be such a powerful tool going through this year, because you have to find your own guidance system. Less and less, because they're going to be so many people who were thought were heroes who turn out to be zeros or less. We are going to be thrown back on increasingly on our own mastery and our own intuition.
So that's what we need to foster. And that's why I've come into your Qi practice, peeps. You know it makes sense. And on the last episode of Qi Time, we had my one Qi colleagues here, John Miller and Tim Franklin. And we were looking at optimizing our immune system and just getting everything out of the way of like, you've got to do it like this, you've got to do it like this. It's like, no, it's all about sorting your frequency out, being kind to your body and letting your mind be involved in the now moment, because you have your own internal medicine cabinet. You actually don't need anything external. Okay, if you break a bone, you might need to go and have it set. But we have far more free resources in us than we're led to believe. And the more that people like us chat and share and work things out for ourselves and find out that we have, the less important the external is going to become for us when they're trying to tell us that we need to do this, that, or the other to make ourselves well. Well, you know what? We're already wired to be well. Every single one of our cells wants to be in balance. I mean, if this isn't the primary remit of health, I don't know what is. Why don't we do more and more of that?
Yeah. And to that, it reminds me actually, Clara, when you're talking, it reminds me of a brilliant lecture that Deepak Chopra gave some years ago. And he said, if you go on a Big Dipper, there are going to be some people who are absolutely terrified, and they're going to produce a lot of cortisol in their system. Terror, stress reduces the immune system. If you think it's just wild and fabulous and so exciting, that same experience will, in other people, produce, I think it's immunoglobulin, which boosts the immune system. So the same experience, depending on your perspective on it, can produce the most rich pharmacy or trigger the most rich pharmacy inside yourself that knows how to boost your own immune system. So all we have to do is sort of shift our perception. And that's so empowering. And I think the other thing to say through this year, because there is going to be a lot happening, be willing to detach. Because another theme of Uranus in Taurus likes to hang on to things, wants to keep the status quo, a sense of material sort of territorialism, let's say. This is my home that I've worked really hard for. This is my car. These are my things. Whereas Uranus wants to just shake all that up. So that's why I think this shift in community is even stronger, because we may well be letting things go from the past that we valued so strongly, but lived more of a solo or individual life or in couples or whatever. But now the shift is much more in groups. That's what the astrology is.
And the astrology is corroborating that, or the astrology is inviting that. Come on, be in your groups. It seems like there's these natural collaborations just happening, whereas it's something that you'd wished for a few years back. It's like, I'd love to do collaborations. It's just dropping in and going, well, this is it. This is where we are at. And this call to be in true community? Because we're done with this false community that's been produced over the years. So there's something about it. Feels like we're on the tail end of a phase that was very successful for a while, and we need to get through the tail end of the disturbance of this old. Is this all in the astrology as well? There's this old way of being is now we're making a way for the new, and it's a dodgy zone in the middle, but we have to keep
Yeah, we're
traversing.
absolutely on the cusp, because Pluto is now pretty much at 27 degrees of Capricorn. It's got 3 degrees to go.
Yes.
So it's grinding and excavating any corruption, lack of transparency, integrity, accountability, particularly in people in high office, people in power. Look at what's happened to royalty recently. So it is going to expose any lack of integrity, any corruption, and bring it to the surface, so that that can, to a large extent, shake our trust, perhaps, in that external authority, external role models. And it's going to do that until, well, it starts to move out of Capricorn in March 2023. It moves fully out in 2024. So it hasn't got that long to go of the exposure, as it were.
Right.
So we have a lot to come in a short time. The next couple of years, a lot of revelations, I believe, because Pluto will always show up the shadow side of the sign it's moving through, and Capricorn is about top-down authority. So this is going to be that's another reason it's going to be such a dramatic period. So, just see what's going to come up. And also the South Node in Scorpio can be about feelings of betrayal. This is our past collective, what we've already lived through.
Yes.
But with Scorpio, there's often a shattering of trust, a sense of betrayal. So that's going to be quite interesting in terms of how that fits into the picture.
Well, absolutely, Pam, because you can almost feel like you betrayed yourself, because a few years back you made a choice that is now not kind of valid, and it's like, how did I get it wrong? And it's like, mate, you didn't get it well. You did the best you could when you were there. All of us are doing the best we can in the now, and in like 10 years time you might look back at these times and go, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Hopefully not, but there is that being compassionate with our human self and not giving yourself a hard time, but realizing that you can make new decisions in the new light of day. And this is something else that you speak about a lot, is this how much light there is on the planet now, and how us as vessels are needing to keep up to speed as our cells receive more light. Can you explain to us what you mean by those more light on the planet now, Pam?
Yeah, absolutely. Approximately every 12,000 years, give or take about 500, our Earth moves through an area of space called the galactic current sheet. And the galactic current sheet has ripples in the plasma. Plasma is what it's 99% of the universe. It's what we use to create with. We are creating out of plasma all the time. We're not conscious of it. But this shift of where we are in space also means that the Earth is moving through something called the photon belt. And again, we only do that about every 12,000 years. So the photon belt has incredibly high frequency, white, bright light. And that you can see, the light is so different from, it used to be soft and golden. It's very different quality of light. That is the high frequency light. So that is upgrading every cell in our bodies all the time, but it's doing it so fast because we've never known this in many, many lifetimes. So our little kind of individual energy fields, which you will understand very well, Clara, are having to kind of, integrate and assimilate. And the question then comes, how much light can we each hold in our bodies with what's coming in? And that the answer to that is always back to what's your level of consciousness, what's your frequency, because the higher that is, the more light you can kind of hold on to, as it were. But what an opportunity of many lifetimes, of thousands of years. But also that is destabilizing because it's such a fast change to what's been happening. And also, Clara, I just want to kind of hop back to something you were talking about, because I think for some people listening to this, they say, oh, it's all right with you, you live in a community or you found good people or whatever. If you haven't set a clear intention, I am easily already finding the perfect like-minded group of people for me to move forwards with. And also recognize that the decisions you made a few years ago were from a different state of being. we are accelerating and upgrading so quickly. We are almost every day in a different state of being to how we were in the past. So recognize you are going to make different decisions from that state of being. Then, if I look back to my 35 years in the corporate world, I wince now. I go, what was I doing? But, I didn't have that information. I didn't have that knowledge. I would never make those decisions now in a zillion years. But we're in a different place. So be kind to yourself, be compassionate, be forgiving with yourself. Don't judge yourself. We were all in a different place then.
Ah, such wise words. Pam Gregory is here with us on Qi Time. We're prepping ourselves for 2022 and beyond. So we've sort of talked about February, March, April, May. What's happening in the summer and the autumn?
It's hot. It's hot. I mean,
it's hot. Oh my word!
I mean, even if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's going to be hot behaviorally because there's a lot happening. At the end of April, 30th of April, there's a solar eclipse conjunct Uranus. There's another very powerful one, total lunar eclipse on the 8th of November, conjunct Uranus. So it's highlighting all this Uranian energy. That's, I understand, in America, the date of the midterm elections. That's a hot day. We're building to a crescendo in the last 3 months of the year. A lot is going to unfold in these last 3 months of the year. Huge year for America. Huge, several years for America.
Really?
Economically, politically, constitutionally, even geographically. What comprises the US? I think will be the question. It's going to be, I think it's going to be made, but that will also, people always say, give me a hard time because I often talk about the US, but whatever happens there is going to ripple across the world.
Of course.
So the other very strong aspect we have, I mentioned earlier, that Jupiter moves into Aries, a much more assertive, courageous sign, the sign of the warrior on the 11th of May, stays there, I think, till the 28th of October, ducks back into Pisces and then back into Aries again. So Mars moves into Aries also in May. And then at the end of July, early August, you've got a Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction, which is just explosive. So that, it's very strong, eruptive, shocking, assertive energy. So that could be cyber attacks, it could be earthquakes, it could be tsunami, it could be extreme earth events of some kind. The middle of the year as well is more militaristic. So we may have a bit of saber rattling somewhere. Just keep questioning yourself. Is this truth? Is this truth? If you've ever been in an abusive relationship, there is always another big scary thing that's coming, oh, here we go again, oh, I'm going to be scared about that, oh, another big scary thing. And eventually, if you're in an abusive relationship, you say, do you know what, we're done to death with really big scary things. We're really done to death. And at that point, you make some different decisions. But I think to question everything and to drop into your truth, is this truth, will be a very good guide. And do it for yourself. Don't listen to external authority. Always do it for yourself. So, every night before I fall asleep, I will ask questions of my dreams. Show me the answer to X, Y, Z. Show me the next step. Then you're getting higher guidance. You're not getting advice from Clara or from me. It's your stuff, your high guidance.
Absolutely. And this brings me to when people that are training in Qigong with me, when it's like, don't listen to what I'm saying. I'm just the facilitator to take what makes sense for your system and then make it your own. Empower yourself, embody the truth in you. That's what this is about. And trusting that you have this ability within you. Don't let anybody take that away from you anymore. I think this is becoming more and more when we talk about being a sovereign being. That's being king or queen of your world, being king or queen of the decisions that you're making. And then when you're alongside other individuals that frequency similarly, then you're like, oh, here's my tribe. I can chat to you. We're already on the same wavelength. I mean, how often have we used that phrase, on the same wavelength? I mean, yes, that's what this is about, isn't it? First with yourself and then in your tribe. And as you take care of yourself, as we mentioned earlier, this is also care for the world, because as you take care of your frequency, you're caring for what you're bringing into the world, which I think is brilliant. Because how many people, myself included back in the day, I'd be like, oh no, I just look after other people, I'll just take care, I'm as, you know, as a mom and all of that, I'll just look after others, completely forgetting that if I didn't look after myself, then at some stage down the line, I'd probably be a burden, you know, to actually.
You can dip into victim and martyr with that energy.
Yes,
You
yes,
know, it isn't about being egocentric or selfish. It's actually, you know, the old thing about put the oxygen on yourself before you help
yes,
others. You know, it's you have to be strong in yourself, strong, resilient, healthy, and then you can help way more people than you could if you're run
exactly.
ragged trying to
No.
care for everybody but not for yourself. So, you know, it gives you the opportunity to shine your light brighter
Mm.
if you're coming from a strong sense of self, not in an egoic sense, but just in a sense of strong center.
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
know what unique gift I have to share with the world, and other people have got brilliant, unique gifts, but we all come together in this beautiful, I don't want to use the word matrix, but you know, this
Good.
beautiful mandala,
Nice.
mandala to raise everything and everyone up. And if
As
you
you
do
said.
set the intention of, you know, I'm already easily finding the perfect like-minded people to move forwards with, you will find you just bump into people, synchronicities happen, somebody said, oh, you've got to meet so and so, there'd be a great contact, you know, this magic starts to happen in your life, and you start thinking, wow, you know, I'm in the magic zone,
I
these
am.
miracles are happening. And miracles can
Amazing.
happen very much with this Jupiter Neptune conjunction in Pisces.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful. It's magic and miracles that we're in increasingly through March and April too. And
And
so
we are the miracle. And just as you were saying that bit about putting the oxygen mask first, I remembered that actually we could take the lead from the heart here, because you probably know this, that the heart pumps blood to itself before it pumps it around the body.
wow, I didn't know that. Wow, there we go. Brilliant analogy. Brilliant.
Very,
And
very good. So we're coming towards the end of our time on She Time here with Pam Gregory, superstar astrologer. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm wondering what you're feeling about what we're moving forwards in towards, you know, that if the old societies are breaking down and are defunct, where are these green shoots that we're talking about? What is going on? What are these co-creations that are happening? There's some stuff happening behind the scenes, aren't there?
there's a lot. And I think, you know, we can take inspiration from, I'm getting very, very interested, as you know, Clara, in the Kuiper belt objects, the dwarf planets, because they really do represent our next level of consciousness. And I mean, if we look at a dwarf planet like Haumea, and she is linked to the Hawaiian goddess of fertility, and she was so fertile she could birth babies from all over her body, not just, you know, the normal places. So, but she could produce food even when the land was laid waste with chemicals or poor practice. She had a magic stick called the macaline. She could just produce wild food. And so food is going to be a really big issue moving forwards. Food, you know, in a way that we've taken food for granted. We can always go to supermarket wherever, we've taken it for granted. There are going to be disruptions in the food supply that will make us appreciate so much more how well, we couldn't survive without food.
No.
So there will be a lot more about coming back to the earth, coming back to food, coming back to the earth, sharing the growing of food. Homer is one of the key principles, the key symbols for new earth. But also, when I look at those Kuiper belt objects, they are all, as far as I've looked so far, a combination of ancient shamanic connection to the earth and ancient deep understanding of nature, but yet a quantum understanding of how reality works.
Wow.
So we can change our reality in leaps, you know, in jumps. We set a clear intention, we focus, we're in a higher energy state, and we release it to the universe, and the universe delivers much more quickly than the, you know, the effort, the push, etc. at the 3D level. So I think particularly we'll see it more through 2022, even more in 2023. We'll see little communities setting up, they'll be growing food, they'll be setting up independent businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Self-employment is a really good thing to look at. If it's possible for you to be self-employed and autonomous, that's a really good idea. Whatever your passion, whatever your skill. So little independent businesses will be setting up. They will be joining with other people to say, hey, 2 or 3 of us could come together to, produce XYZ. So those little kind of villages almost, or hubs of community. You live near Glastonbury, Clara. I think it's Glastonbury, Frome, somewhere else, Stroud. There's several of them. There are about 5 towns in southwest UK that are known as protector towns, I think, and they have people's councils, they have people's assemblies alongside the elected representatives. That's how society will start to move forwards, with groups of people who others feel of knowledgeable, trustworthy, high integrity, and they will help in the organization, but it won't be top down.
It can't be.
It will be bottom up. And so that's what's it, because we are creating it right now ourselves.
Yes, we are co-creating it together, and therein lies the response ability, responding and being able to respond to what is needed now.
Yeah.
Whoa, Pam. So yeah, food is required. Also, I felt as you were speaking about that the quality of water was really important too.
Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces can raise a lot of issues around water.
Okay.
All kinds. It could be toxicity, pollution in water. So I would, you can even go online and buy a really cheap sort of 15, 20 quid camping thing you can put in your backpack that will filter river water, stream water, rainwater to make it drinkable. I think it'd be a really good idea if everybody had one of those. You may never ever need it. If you do need it, it will be utterly priceless. You will pay a fortune for that should you need it, because water is absolutely fundamental. So there could be big issues around water not being high enough quality for drinking, and therefore have some kit at home. Have a filter system, have a backpack that filters river water, rainwater. I think that's a really good idea. If you have a garden, you can have a rain butt.
Yes.
That's another way to collect rainwater that you can then filter. There are various ways you can do it, but just be aware those could be issues.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also in the Chinese astrology, we're stepping into the year of the water tiger. And that feels like connecting in with the water issues as well, but also the energy and the ferociousness of the tiger, that it's not going to put up with anything that is less than the truth anymore. It's like the truth is in your waters. And remembering the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, the way that you speak to yourself will resonate in your waters. The way that you talk to the waters out in the world will have an effect. So we're getting back to frequency again, aren't we?
And the tiger is courageous and the tiger is fast.
Yes, and it is going to be this super fast year. But anyway, we're not going to go off on that tangent, because that's probably enough of us taking up your time here on Qi Time. Pam Gregory, thank you so much for your wisdom and your enthusiasm and your everything that's come through you here. I really, really appreciate you.
No, you always have great conversations, Clara. You ask great questions, and it always sparks new ideas in me as well. So, it's you too. I really thank you for your wisdom and your time as well. Fantastic.
Bless you. How can people find out more about you, lovely?
Yep. Website is pamgregory.com or thenextstep.uk.com. I have a long monthly newsletter there that's freely available. All my YouTubes go up on there as well. I've got a very busy YouTube channel, Pam Gregory Astrology. That's super busy, at least sort of 3 or 4 videos a month. I have teaching videos that are on my website, and I also have 2 best-selling books. I'm not selling them from the website any longer, but you can buy them online. So a lot going on.
Very, very good. Very good. Have you got one last kind of thing that you would like to just share with listeners and viewers?
Yep. Stay strong in your sovereignty and shine your light to the world.
And I'm going to add to that, no matter what, you can do this. And not only are you doing this on your own, you're holding hands with Pam and I, with all of our crew and our team and our families around the world. This is how we do this. This is how we co-create the new world together. And we hold ourselves through the difficulties, but we know that we're birthing the new. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you, Pam, for all that you do to bring through.
Oh, bless you. And we are going to be so darned proud of ourselves when we get through the rubble and we're still standing tall, dusty, battered, but in our sovereignty.
There's only one way out of this then, isn't there? Dong on the bell. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. It's Pam Gregory and Clara Apollo dinging the heart bell together.
Amazing. Thank you, Clara.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening and watching. Back with you soon. Keep your chi up, my friends. Your energy matters.